わめきなさいよっ。
みんながそばにいる。
兵糧のようにうなれ。やっ結晶せよ。はっよっ。はいよっ。粉々よ早く行くぞ。わめきなさい。
みんなは俺が守る。
兵糧のようにうなれ。結晶せよ。やっジャッジメント。
Yo, Eula's the latest character to have just dropped for Genshin Impact, and this will be a guide on how I feel is the best way for you to build your Eula and deal the most amount of damage. I'll be going in depth on her weapon, the artifacts, Constellations talents, everything. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so starting off, I'm just going to quickly go over her attributes. So she is currently at 2154 attack. Her crit rate is sitting at 47.8. Her crit damage is sitting at 198.8. Injury recharge sitting at 133.7. And her physical damage is sitting at 117.8. Alright, so moving on to weapons. Eula's absolute best in slot will be the Song of Broken Pines. But for free to play, there are two good options, which are the Serpent Spine and the Snow Tomb Star Silver, which is what I'm currently rocking on my Eula. I chose the Snow Tomb Star Silver over the Serpent Spine because of the simple fact that it gives you physical damage bonus. Other than that, like I said, the Serpent Spine is another great option because it gives you crit rate, so that means you don't have to run a crit rate helmet on your Eula. You can just run crit damage and go on about your day. Moving on to Eula's artifacts, I currently have her rocking a 4-piece Pale Flame set. The 2-piece is nice because it increases her physical damage by 25%, and the 4-piece basically says that whenever she hits an enemy with an elemental skill, it'll increase her attack by 9% for 7 seconds. This effect can stack up to 2 times, and then once 2 stacks have been reached, the 2-piece set effect is increased by 100%. This set was basically made for Eula. In terms of like each individual artifact, the flower primarily rolled into crit damage with a fair bit of crit rate. In terms of the feather, it kind of rolled evenly into everything. Moving on to the hourglass, I have it main stat attack percent. All of it basically rolled into crit damage. Moving on to the cup, the main stat is physical damage, and it kind of rolled evenly into everything. I would have rather it not roll into defense, obviously. I would rather that going into something like crit rate or attack percent. And last but not least, moving on to her circuit, I have her currently rocking a crit damage circlet with a fair bit of crit rate and a fair bit of energy recharge. Alright, so moving on to Eula's Constellations. I am primarily a free-to-play player, so I don't have any constellations for Eula. Even though she has a lot of really good constellations, you do not need any of them in order for her to be a good carry. However, for those who are looking to get multiple constellations of Eula, Tidal Illusion is really good. It increases her physical damage. Lady of Seafoam is also good because it decreases her held version of her Ice-type Vortex, and it makes it similar to the cooldown of her press version. Her C4 also increases the damage that her Lightfall soars due to enemies who are below 50% HP, and her C6 makes it easier for her to ramp up stacks when she has her ultimate out on the field. Alright, so moving on to Eula's talent. In terms of talent prioritization, I would say you want to prioritize her normal attack into her Ice-type Vortex and then her Glacial Illumination. There isn't really anything to note about Eula's normal attack. However, there is one cool thing that I want to mention. If you stop after Eula's 3rd hit of her normal attack, she'll kick the sword up with her foot. Moving on to Ice-type Vortex. Eula has 2 versions of her Ice-type Vortex, the pressed version and the held version. The held version grants Eula a stack of Grimheart. Grimheart increases Eula's resistance to interruption and her defense. The held version of Eula's Ice-type Vortex consumes all stacks of Grimheart and shreds the enemy's physical and cryo resistance by a certain amount per stack. Also, for each stack of Grimheart that Eula has, those stacks will be converted into an Ice Whirl brand that deals cryo damage to nearby enemies. Upon unlocking Eula's Ascension passive Rolling Rhyme, if you have 2 stacks of Grimheart and you do the held version of Ice-type Vortex, Eula will create a Shattered Lightfall Sword that'll deal half the damage of her ultimate. Alright, so moving on to Eula's Elemental Burst Glacial Illumination. Upon activation, she does a big hit, and after that she summons a Lightfall Sword that'll follow her around for up to 7 seconds. Within that time, you have to get as many hits as you possibly can onto the enemy, which in turn builds up her stacks. After the 7-second duration, her Lightfall Sword will plummet into the ground and deal a massive amount of damage depending on how many stacks you have built up within that 7 seconds. Her last Ascension passive, Wellspring of Warlust, kind of changes the way that her ultimate works slightly. So whenever she activates her ultimate, the cooldown of Ice-type Vortex is reset completely, and she also gains 1 stack of Grimheart. One tip that I want to give is that immediately after activating her Elemental Burst, you want to follow up with Ice-type Vortex. This way, Eula will be at maximum stacks of Grimheart. Also, what I like to do before her ultimate ends is do the held version of her Ice-type Vortex. That way I can shred the enemy's physical resistance and cryo resistance. I mainly want to focus on the physical resistance because that increases the amount of damage that her ultimate will do. And that's all for Eula's talent. Alright, and last but not least, we're moving on to the team composition. So I'm running with Bennett, Eula, Beidou, and Xinyan. Bennett is mainly here to heal everyone and amplify Eula's attack. Eula is my physical carry. Beidou is here to be paired with Eula to get Superconduct to decrease the enemy's physical resistance. And Xinyan's elemental skill, Sweeping Fervor, grants a shield to any ally who's on the field. This shield also increases our allies' physical damage by 15%. One thing to note though is I have Xinyan rocking a Tenacity at the middle of this set. Without it, her shield will not absorb as much damage, which means my Eula will be missing out on that 15% physical bonus damage. Alright, so that is it for my guide on how to build Eula. She's obviously still new to the game, so there's probably some things that I've missed, or some things that I just haven't discovered yet. So hopefully now you too can go in and build your Eula with confidence. If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to hit that bell, that way you'll be notified whenever I upload a video. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next one.